Bags down, spikes on. Welcome to the track. My name's Colin Weitzman. I'm going to be your host for this episode of Track World News, and we have a lot of great things that I definitely want to cover, as well as we're going to be getting into the Fantasy Track League, where one of you will be able to win a brand new pair of Nike running shoes or some new exclusive Track World News merchandise when that releases in the near future. So stay tuned for all those details. And before we get into everything, make sure that you follow the show, subscribe, share with a friend, give the show a rating. All that good stuff helps us know that you're really enjoying what's going on and we're making some stuff that you're enjoying. So make sure you do that. Now, let's get into the very first story of the day. We're going to look at American Track League. So this was obviously something last week we took the entire episode on. We talked all about the good, the bad, the ugly, things I enjoyed, things that I thought were not so good. And this week was a pleasant surprise. It was two completely different broadcasts, essentially. And partially, I believe that they had such an increase and such an improvement from last week was because they also have the support of USATF. And for all the junk that they get, they do have a lot of money behind them, and they can put on a pretty good show and have some pretty good announcers as well. So that support definitely did a lot of things. I'm sure they probably listened to a lot of us. Don't know if they listened to this episode, but hopefully they did, and it looks like whatever they did, it improved. So let's go over some of those things that I liked a lot, and there's not a lot of things that I would improve on, but let's go over those as well. So first, great announcing. I think Otto Bolden and a few other announcers, Lewis from last week, I can't remember the other guy, I'm so sorry, but announcers were great. They had awesome insight on the athletes, the backstory of the athletes, as well as the event that was going on as a whole. They always had something going on, so there wasn't a lot of downtime when they did that. Second was another issue that I thought would have taken months for them to do, and that was having cutaways of stories of athletes. Two that standed out to me was Sandy Morse, her and her dad building the pole vault pit in her backyard, talking about what it was like training and how she and her husband had COVID and what all that meant. And they also talked about, Tiana Barletta, who was the, I believe, long jumper, United States long jumper, on how she's gotten into yoga and how she's now a yoga instructor and she's been really helping out other people. And they did cutaways of her business, her doing yoga and a whole bunch of other stuff. And that was great. Those are like the things that I was talking about last week that I thought would have been fantastic to see. You know, the backstories of these athletes, because there's a lot of interesting things. And they just scratched the surface here. It's only the first week they've done it, but they have so many backstories they could go over, and I'm sure they will as the weeks progress. So that was a good start for sure. They had background music, so it wasn't completely dead in there. I know that they had music going on pretty much the whole time during the meet last week, but we weren't able to hear it very much because the audio was in the booth, which is probably the biggest thing that they fixed, which was the audio. For those that listened or watched the broadcast last week, there was times where the audio was super loud, and there was times where the audio was super low, and there's athletes standing way too far from the mic, athletes standing way too close from the mic. It was all over the place. And this week, it really seems like they got their stuff together. It was on point like it would be for any other broadcast or a professional game, and it was really, really professional. So kudos for you. There was some great graphics that they put on the screens of athletes and their throws, their times, their names. They did better intros. Overall, just much better, much more pleasant experience. The social media's really stepped up, where they were constantly putting things on their story, and they're constantly doing posts and on Twitter and everything. It was really great, giving updates and all that stuff. So overall, fantastic thing that they're doing so far. If I'm looking at what I'd like to see them update and change, I'm still in with the different color jerseys. That's the biggest thing for me now, because it's so difficult. Like, who are these people? Like, I mean, as a fan, I know who each of these athletes are, but even as a fan, some of these athletes haven't competed in in years or in a year because no meets have gone on. So even fans might be like, who's this person? So let's get it where, yeah, I know that a lot of these athletes, they're all sponsored by Nike, or many of them may be sponsored by Adidas or Puma or whatever it is, and so they have a lot of the same jersey colors or jersey design, but let's do different shades of it. Like, hey, if you're gonna have the blue shade of Nike, like have someone else have the green, have somebody else have the red, whatever it is, because there's enough colors for there to be different jerseys. So that's something I'd like to see. It'd be nice. It'd be really great. But overall, huge improvement. I think I gave it a C minus, maybe C plus last week. I give this one B plus A minus. I think it did really well. They stayed in the 2-hour time frame, so it was really easy to watch and didn't take too long. Overall, fantastic experience. Looking forward to seeing what they're going to do this week, especially with the Fantasy League coming up. Stay tuned in. We're going to be talking about that later. Next, want to go over the power rankings I have for week 2 of the NCAAs. We're going to talk about a few performances that standed out to me later on. And right now, I want to go over the power rankings that I have for the NCAA championship that'll be being held in, March? So we'll go over the top 10 for males, then top 10 for females. The way that we got this list is taking the scores, so the top 8 performers in every single indoor event except for the relays. And so we took all of those, added them up the same way, 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then see where people are at. So obviously with relays, it's going to be different a little bit because you don't know who's going to be in which one, but that's where we're at. So number 1 for the male side. So something you'll notice for the male side is they're all very close. So it could be just as easy for the team that is in the top 4. Really, anyone in the top 4 has an ability of winning this thing. Like it's so close, and a lot of these events that they're going up against, they have very similar. Like many of the teams are facing off each other, like in the sprints or the throws or jumps. So number 1, Oregon, they went from being unranked to being number 1 because they had a monster weekend. I think most of their athletes competed this weekend compared to last week. They just didn't have anyone. So they're number 1, 54 points. Then Florida State University, number 2 with 41 points. Texas Tech in 3rd place, 37 points. LSU in 4th place with 36 points. We have Georgia in 5th with 26 points. So as you see, the top 5 is very, very close, especially 3, 4, and 5. And it continues that way as you go down because there's less points available. Next, we have in 6th place, Tennessee, 23 points. In 7th place, Ole Miss with 20 points. And then in 8th place, we have North Carolina A&T with 18 points. So there are a lot of very, very close teams in here. Oregon is the right now looking like they'll be the leader, especially that's not even including the DMR, which they just dominated this past weekend. So I think other teams could do it. I mean, if I'm looking at someone else that could take it, if I had to go my black horse, I'd be picking Georgia because, I mean, betting against Matt Bolding is a bad idea. And they have 2 400-meter runners that are running under 45 seconds. So their 4x4 is going to be dominant. I'm sure they could pick somebody to put them in the DMR, and it seems like they can always just find a way to get some points somewhere. So I think they could be an underdog. LSU is going to be huge. Their jumping is always very, very strong. So looking forward to seeing how this NCAAs is gonna pair out. And then looking over to the women's side, a little bit less parity up at the top. As many of you know, Arkansas dominates women's track and field. So in first place, we have Arkansas, projected 92 points. It's just insane. Then next, in second place, we have Texas A&M, projected 49 points, so about half, a little under half of the, or over half of what the Arkansas women are projected. Georgia, third place with 42. USC in fourth place with 35. Texas in fifth place with 30. Texas Tech in sixth place with 28. LSU in 7th place with 21, and Baylor in 8th place with 20. So it's not very close up at the top. For second, the battle for second place, though, is going to be very, very close. Like anyone from Texas A&M to really LSU, that top 7 spot could go for it. And I mean, unless Arkansas really flubs up and just really doesn't have a great performance, I think it's easy that they're going to have it. So overall, those are who I have as the winner. And we'll see what it goes next week. If you want to catch those numbers early, I post the power rankings on Sundays on my Instagram, which is Track World News as well. So if you want to catch the power rankings a few days early, make sure you go check that out. And then next, let's talk about my 3 standout performances of the week. Number 1, the Oregon DMR, who broke the collegiate world record. They ran 9 minutes, 19.42 seconds. That was flying. They shattered the old record, and they're not that far off from the world record. I mean, I think the world record set by the United States was, like 9:15, 9:16? Yeah, it's 3 seconds, but in a relay, it's only, a second here or there for other people. So overall, like a dominant performance, especially by a college and this early in the season. So they were on ESPN everywhere. I'm sure that you saw them. So great job for them. Second, we have Shawnee Miller. She ran a 22.40 in the 200, which was a world lead and is the world lead by over half a second. So she's just dominating, and not only that, she was cruising. And for those that know Shawnee, she's a tall athlete, and so for her to be able to get around the track that fast with that much ease, because it was only her and one other runner who was running, and the other runner, who was it? It was a 400-meter runner, and so she immediately made up the stagger within like the first 3 seconds. It wasn't even close. Like she cruised to it. She could run easily faster. This was a huge PR, world lead, as I mentioned, so great performance. Next, we're going to take a look at someone else that was also from the American Track League, which was Bryce Hopel. In the 800, he ran a 1 minute 44.37 seconds, which is a world lead, and was it was a dominant performance in a very stacked race. So in this competition, I think this was easily the most competitive race at the American Track League, and one of the most competitive 800-meter races ran in a while. It was of the 5 competitors that raced, 4 of the 5 ran a personal best, and the 5th one was Clayton Murphy, who I don't know what happened. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if he just had a bad race, but he was running pretty slow compared to what he normally runs. I mean, this is one of his first races in a while. I think he was injured for a little bit last year, so he had a bad race, but Bryce Hopel really took it into stride. I mean, he had that stretch of time where he was going undefeated in, I think, high school, and he was just dominating everything. And well, we're seeing that dominance now with the world lead. So the 800, especially in the United States, is going to be very, very, very impressive, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the future, because it was a great race by them. Next, something that's dumb, the Olympic rumors of Olympics being moved to Florida from Tokyo. First, there were the rumors of Tokyo wanting to cancel the Olympics. So far, that has not happened yet. It hasn't been postponed. It hasn't been canceled. They said, or the IOC had said, yeah, these rumors are unfounded. They're not true. But I mean, only time will tell, because if things change dramatically that, we're not canceled, we're going forward, could easily change. And so who knows? I mean, within the next week, it could change, in the next couple months. And Florida offered like, hey, we'll take it if you guys want to do it here for, track and field stuff. Like, we have it. I mean, if any place could do it, Florida could. I'm not surprised that they offered. I mean, they had the bubbles for the basketball for men and female, and so they were hosting the Toronto Raptors for basketball. So I mean, not surprised that they offered to do this thing, but it's not going to happen. Then going into sports as well, we had the Tyreek Hill versus Scotty Miller debate. This is also a dumb one. And for those that don't know who these guys are, they're two football players who are actually going to be playing against each other in the Super Bowl. Tyreek Hill is a wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, and Scotty Miller is a wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Scotty Miller was asked in an interview this past week, like, do you think you're the fastest man in the NFL? Do you think, or who do you think is the fastest guy in the NFL? And he said, quote, "I'm taking me every day of the week." And then another reporter followed up saying, "So you're faster than Tyreek Hill?" He was like, "Taking me every day of the week." And that's what he has to say. He has to say that, of course, he's going to take him every day of the week, because if you don't, you show weakness. I mean, you're going up against this guy in a week's time in the biggest game of your entire life, so you have to say you're gonna take you every day of the week. But I mean, when we look at the numbers, it's just not true. Like Tyreek Hill is just faster than him. So if we take a look at Scotty Miller's times, so of course he could be much faster than this. These are just his recorded times from, I believe, high school in Illinois, where he is, and he's 23 now. So, in the 100 he ran a 10.53, and then in the 200 he ran a 21.25, which are two respectable times. Like, those are times that if you run those, you're probably going to get into states, depending on which state you're in, or you're definitely going to be winning, district meets. Like, those are fast times. Like, those are fast times. I'm not going to debate that. And then we have Tyreek Hill. In the 100, Tyreek Hill ran a 10.19, and then the 200, he ran a 20.14. That was in 2012 when he was 18, and that was the sixth best time in the United States. So Scotty Miller is fast for a high school, college athlete. That's fast. Like 10.59, that's fast. Like I'm not going to say you're not. And then Tyreek Hill is just like elite speed. Like, your high school, pretty good speed. Tyreek Hill is elite national recognition speed. Like, if in another life, he could be competing at a very high level in the 4x1 or in the 200. I believe I was just watching a video from 2012 where he beat Trayvon Bromell in the 200, or in the 100, sorry. He is fast. And so to say you're better than him it's not true, but he has to stick by it. So that was another dumb thing that was going around, but we'll have to see. I would love to see the race, and I'm all for having football players compete in track events. Like, if it was up to me, I would have every football player, every basketball player, every soccer player, whatever they want, every player that thinks they're fast to compete in at the Olympic trials, or at the national championships, at whatever it is. Like, have them compete there in the 100 or the 200, or let's do a 40-yard dash on the track, whatever it is. Let's have them compete, and that's going to bring more eyeballs to our sport. I'm bringing this up because I saw one of my friends who has another podcast, a socially distant podcast, Ragib, Josh, Caleb, for listening to this. Shout out to y'all. But I posted that about YouTubers boxing. Is that ruining the sport of boxing? I say no, because you're bringing out people that would normally not watch the sport watching because their favorite YouTubers are watching, and that or are fighting. And so for me, if people are like, oh, if you have these NFLers, these basketball, baseball players, whatever, competing in track and field just because they want to, is that going to ruin your sport? No. It makes your sport even better, because now you're getting eyeballs for people that would normally not watch your sport watching, because their favorite wide receiver, their favorite point guard, their favorite shortstop, their favorite football, like everything. Like, once you get that, you're getting these people to watch the sport. They're like, oh, wow, this is actually pretty interesting. Like, I want to continue watching. Let's have the strongest lineman try the shot put or the discus, whatever it is. Like, many of these athletes competed in it, so they know the technique. Many of these football players competed in track, so they know the technique. Let's get them to do it. It's going to bring more eyeballs to our sport, and that's what we need. So I would love to see it, but, you're not faster, Scotty. I'm sorry. Next and final thing, as I had mentioned before, we are going to be having a fantasy track league. And the best part about this is one of you guys is going to be able to win either a brand new pair of Nike running shoes or some of our Track World News merch that we're going to be releasing within the next month or two. We're developing some pretty cool things right now, so it's not available yet. But we're going to be having this fantasy thing. Where is this going to be held, you may ask? Well, unfortunately, it's not on there is no ESPN Fantasy or Yahoo Fantasy Sports. So there is a new app that is really exciting, and it has really updated news and fantasy for track and field. It's called Roster Athletics. So if you go to Roster Athletics, you'll see where you can select the meet, and then it has this fantasy aspect to it. And so if you want to join my league, go to my Instagram page, Track World News, and then if you click the link in the bio, it's going to be, I believe, the second link. It's going to say Fantasy Track and Field. If you click that, it's going to bring you to the sign-up page of the app, and then you click Join League, and you'll join our fantasy league. And this first meet, or the first part of this competition, is going to be held on February 7th, which is a Sunday, the Super Bowl Sunday, but in the morning, or the afternoon, so before the big game happens. And it's going to be a two-parter. So what you're going to do is make sure you have your team set up before the event happens. So I believe once the first event happens, you can't alter your team. So make sure you choose it before then. You're going to select one athlete from each event. So if let's say the men's shot put, you're going to pick one for the throws. And in the sprinting events, so like the 60, the 400, the 200, you're going to pick one athlete for both male and female. And you're going to pick your entire team, and you get a certain allotment of cash. And each athlete, depending on how good they are, is worth a different amount of cash. And so you have to choose wisely on who it is that you're going to want to spend your money on. And you have an option to also make one of these athletes your captain. What happens if they're your captain is they're going to be worth double the points and score you double the points, but they're also going to cost double the cash. So you're going to have to be careful with who it is that you spend it on, because that can really break the bank and may make it more difficult to pick other people. And depending on where they place, or if they break any records or personal bests or whatever, you're going to get a certain allotment of points. And then once that is all said and done, there's going to be a final score at the end of the meet of how many total points you have. And so the winner of the competition is going to be whoever has the most points for this week, which will be February 7th, combined with the points for next week, which is February 14th. So make sure that you get your points in, or you sign up today, and we will be doing all of that. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's completely free to download, completely free to join. The only things that are the requirements in order to do it are make sure that you subscribe to the show, follow our Instagram page, and then of course join the app. So once you have all that stuff completely free, you'll be all set. And I'm really looking forward to it. We're going to be doing more competitions like this in the past or in the future. Really wanted to make sure we can get involved with you guys and have a lot of fun. So thank you all for joining us on this episode of Track World News. My name's Colin Waitsman. I was your host. Hope that you enjoyed it. Once again, make sure that you like the show, share with a friend, leave the show a rating, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. And if you want bonus content, or you want to join our fantasy track team or fantasy track league, make sure that you follow us on Instagram at Track World News, all one word. Thank you. Have a good one. Peace.